Have you ever done something you knew was right, even if it cost you dearly? What if that single act of kindness, that moment of sacrifice, was the very thing that unlocked a future you never imagined? This is the story of Mark, a man whose life was turned upside down and then right side up, all because he chose to help a stranger. Mark wasn't a hero, at least not in his own eyes. He was just a regular guy, a diligent sales manager at a high-end car dealership. His life ran on a tight schedule: hit sales targets, manage the team, report to demanding bosses, and repeat. He was good at his job, respected by his colleagues, but lately he'd felt a growing emptiness. The thrill of closing a big sale had faded, replaced by a monotonous pressure to perform. His days were a blur of polished chrome, the smell of new leather, and the constant ringing pressure of hitting his numbers. One Tuesday afternoon, the sky was a canvas of moody grey, threatening a downpour. Mark was in the middle of a crucial meeting with his regional manager, a notoriously impatient man named Mr. Henderson. They were reviewing quarterly figures, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Suddenly, through the dealership's massive glass windows, Mark saw her. An elderly woman, her hair as white as snow, was struggling on the sidewalk. Her car had a flat tire, and she looked utterly lost and distressed, fumbling with her phone as the first drops of rain began to fall. Something inside Mark stirred. He saw his own grandmother in her frail posture, in the anxious look on her face. His colleagues glanced outside and quickly looked away, engrossed in their spreadsheets. Mr. Henderson didn't even notice. Mark tried to focus on the numbers, on the sharp line of his manager's jaw, but his gaze kept drifting back to the woman. He knew the protocol. Stay in the meeting, don't cause a scene, especially not in front of the regional manager. But the image of her alone and helpless as the rain started to fall in earnest was a siren call he couldn't ignore. "Excuse me, Mr. Henderson," Mark said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I need to step out for a moment." Henderson shot him a look of pure disbelief. "Now, Mark, we're in the middle of a critical review." Mark simply nodded. "I know, sir. It's an emergency. I'll be right back." He didn't wait for a response. He walked out of the conference room, leaving behind a stunned silence and the furious glare of his boss. He grabbed a large company umbrella and a toolkit from the service department and rushed outside. The rain was coming down hard now, plastering his shirt to his back. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked gently. The woman looked up, startled, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and relief. "Oh dear boy, my tire, it's completely flat. My phone's dead and I don't know who to call." Mark offered her a reassuring smile. "Don't you worry about a thing. Let's get you under this umbrella. I'll change that tire for you." He guided her to the dealership's covered entrance, got her a warm cup of coffee from the lounge, and then went to work. The lug nuts were stubborn and the rain was relentless. He was soaked to the bone within minutes, his expensive suit trousers stained with grime from the road. It took him nearly 40 minutes of wrestling with the jack and the spare tire, but finally it was done. The woman, whose name was Eleanor, watched him with tears in her eyes. I don't know how to thank you," she stammered, trying to press a wad of cash into his hand. Mark gently pushed her hand away. "No, please. It was the right thing to do. Just promise me you'll drive safely." He helped her back into her car, and as she drove away, waving gratefully, a strange sense of peace washed over him, a feeling more satisfying than any commission check he'd ever earned. But that feeling evaporated the moment he walked back into the dealership. Mr. Henderson was waiting for him, his face a mask of cold fury. "Pack your things, Mark. You're fired." Mark was speechless. "Fired? For helping someone?" Henderson scoffed. "You're fired for insubordination, for abandoning a critical meeting and showing a complete lack of judgment and priority. This dealership doesn't pay you to be a roadside mechanic. You're a liability. The words hit Mark like a physical blow. He'd dedicated 5 years of his life to this company. He'd sacrificed weekends, missed family events, all for the job. And it was all gone in an instant. As he packed his personal belongings into a small box, his colleagues avoided his eyes. The sense of betrayal was suffocating. He walked out of the place he'd once considered a second home, the rain still falling. But now it felt like it was mocking him. The next few weeks were a nightmare. The shame of being fired made it hard to even start his job search. Rejection emails piled up, his savings dwindled. The emptiness he'd felt before was now a gaping chasm of despair. He started to second-guess himself. Had he been a fool? Should he have just ignored the old woman and kept his head down? The world he thought he knew, where hard work and good intentions mattered, seemed like a lie. One afternoon, as he was scrolling listlessly through job postings, his phone rang with an unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Hello, is this Mark?" a warm professional voice asked. "Yes, speaking," Mark replied, his own voice flat. "Mark, my name is Daniel. I'm calling on behalf of Mrs. Eleanor Vance. You helped her with a flat tire a few weeks ago." Mark's heart skipped a beat. Eleanor Vance. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't place it. "Yes, I remember," he said cautiously. "Well," Daniel continued, "Mrs. Vance is the founder and CEO of Vance Innovations, one of the leading tech firms in the state. She was incredibly moved by your kindness and selflessness that day. She said it's rare to see that kind of character anymore. She also happened to notice the dealership logo on your shirt and made some inquiries." Mark stood frozen, the phone glued to his ear. Daniel went on to explain that Eleanor had been so impressed. She'd had her HR team look into him. They discovered his stellar work history, his management skills, and eventually the fact that he'd been fired for helping her. "Mrs. Vance believes that character is the most valuable asset in any employee," Daniel said. "She has created a new position, Director of Community Outreach and Client Relations. It's a role that requires not just business acumen, but integrity and a genuine desire to connect with people. She believes you are the perfect person for the job." An interview was scheduled. When Mark met Eleanor Vance in her sprawling, sunlit office, she was no longer a distressed old woman on the side of the road. She was a powerhouse, sharp and commanding, but with the same kind eyes he remembered. "Mark," she said, shaking his hand firmly, "that day, I wasn't just a woman with a flat tire. I was a CEO looking for the kind of person money can't buy. You didn't know who I was. You had nothing to gain, and as it turned out, everything to lose. And you still chose to help. That's who I want on my team." Mark accepted the job on the spot. It was more than just a job. It was a calling. He was now in charge of building relationships, of giving back to the community, of making a real, tangible difference. The salary was double what he'd been making, but that wasn't the best part. The best part was the feeling he got every morning, knowing his work had purpose. He had found his place, not by chasing numbers, but by following his heart. Mark's story is a powerful reminder that the universe has a funny way of balancing the books. Sometimes, what looks like a devastating loss is actually life clearing the path for something far greater. Losing that job was the best thing that ever happened to him because it led him to a life of true fulfillment. It teaches us that integrity is its own reward, and a single act of kindness can echo in ways we can never predict. So the next time you have a choice between what is easy and what is right, remember, Mark, you never know when you're changing a tire for the CEO of your own destiny. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. We'll see you in the next video.